Hello, Next Geners. Welcome to our big form preview show ahead of the Caulfield Cup and the Everest, ahead of our horse Claymore running at Maui tomorrow. Hayden, can we get a little banker to start the weekend at Maui?
Oh, we can only hope, mate. I hope they bring the flippers and the snorkel. Might need to go down to Maui tomorrow. Armageddon here.
It will be heavy. He ran well, Bendigo last start on a heavy track up to 1,850 metres suits. We'll go to the front. Let's see if he's good enough. Good luck, Gemma Riley and the Next Gen owners in Gibbo. That's race 5, number 1, Claymore. Now, let's get stuck straight into the Everest. We've got 40 minutes here with our Zoom meeting. Nature Strip. I'll get up a market. He's been on the drift today. Obviously, Randwick last week got called off, so we're expecting another bottomless track, Hayden. He's actually $2 with the tab. He did get out to about $2.20 at one point, but looks like he's back into even money.
Good horse. It's pretty quick. World's best sprinter, I think he's been announced. Hard horse to fault, isn't he? Pretty much the only way I could fault him is if it was on I couldn't even really fault him on a genuine bottomless track, to be honest. I think he's got a lot of advantages. It's a cracking race. It's a very, very good edition of an Everest. And when you've got a sprinter of his caliber, very hard to fault. Tactics are going to be intriguing, particularly early. First 400 metres of the race. Question mark with me is what do they do with the filly Shades of Rose? Are they prepared to be bold and brave and burn the candle and tear to the front? She's got the speed to put herself right up there. That's the little question mark for me. If she's prepared to do that, does Nash say, okay, I'll come and sit outside of you, and then ask J-Mac the question on Nature Strip, whether he wants to really push the button and drag forward and make it brutal, or does J-Mac try and create a spot tucked in behind them? In natural map, 3-year-old filly deep into the campaign, you would think they would take the sit, which would mean it was Eddie leading the fence, Nature Strip to his outside. Would you be in agreement with that?
Well, yeah. And look, I think we've said it on this show before. I think we said it before last year's Everest that the times he's been undone is when he's been asked to go 5 lengths above benchmark through that first section and try and sustain it to the 400. And understandably, he's crumbled. But when he's able to get sort of below benchmark or even up to that 1 length above benchmark through that first section, it's nearly game over.
It is. When it comes down to that speed threshold through the first section, to me, it's more of a comfort thing. So he can surge, and I'm happy for him to breach that length and above, push the 2s early. The question mark I've got with him is when he's drawn close to the fence to that inside, and there's a risk of him being crossed, that they've had to fire him up through those first 3 or 4 strides, which pretty much gets him a little bit unbalanced. I think it must do something to his breathing, etc. He gets a bit excited, wants to reef and tear. When they feel like they've overdone it, they enforce the slowdown. And when the slowdown kicks in, he's a sitting shot. So you've got to have a look at the way that J-Mac's ridden him pretty much the last 3 starts, and I think they've worked it all out. I don't think there's any complications with the horse anymore. A few people wanted to question that barrier. If I had to pick a barrier for him,
ideal,
it would have been 12. Only way it could have got any better for him would be the possibility of him drawing 11 and Eduardo drawing 12, and him having the opportunity just to hold Eduardo and lead him, because I think if he led him, he'd kill him.
Yep. So you got Nature Strip winning on Saturday?
Tactics are going to be the big key to me. I think if they get there easy enough, if they're just allowed to flow across and everybody in the race says, we don't want to take on Nature Strip, that's definite. That's suicidal tactic. And Nash definitely won't want to sit on the back of Nature Strip. He'll want to hold him. Then it's all going to come down to what tactic do the boys employ through the mid. Do they back it off? Does Nash try and play the, okay, let's back it off and see if James will follow me? and then we'll try and turn it into a 300-400 meter dash to the line. Then they're going to create the drag, and there's going to be a couple of boys there with some big kicks sitting on their tail that could possibly run them down. If they get there easy and they cause the surge through the mid-race, they're going to blow up everything that sits on their tail, and then there's going to have to be some ducking and weaving for a few horses drawn in behind to try and make their way through. So the way I've envisioned the race is, I think that they will get there comfortably. Then J-Mac will really push Eduardo and he'll make him want to surge through the mid. He may feel like he's a touch vulnerable, but J-Mac's riding as good as you could possibly get right now. So he'll get it spot on. I think he'll bust Eduardo up, and Eddie might be under a little bit of trouble come the last 100. And then I've got 3 horses that I can envision slingshotting from the back with the right run lines. And it's just going to be a case in the last 100 metres, can they get Nature Strip? Private Eye, to me, is a real smoky. He's a real dangerous runner with a massive kick. I was taken by his performance, Flemington, in the lead-up. This is a new game for him, 1,200 metres. But I think this race shape's going to suit him, and I think he can tear past a couple of them. He's my knockout player, Private Eye. The other horses in the race that I was quite intrigued by was Musk Crusader. I think he's ready now. I would have liked him tucked up into the fence a little bit more to take away the temptation for Pike to try and surge when they surge. I'd like him just to creep and just try and creep his way into the race and give himself basically a 400-metre shot at them. I think if he tries to improve on the mid-race, he'll bust him to pieces. And the other one who's got a really kind draw and he'll thrive on the energy would be Jacquino. So he's the one who can storm to the line late. So I'm Nature Strip, Private Eye, Jacquino, Musk Crusader. They're my top 4.
And obviously Jacquino, the Golden Rose winner, we saw Yes, win this race a few years back. Only the one run on a heavy track.
Yes, he's only had the one run on the heavy track. I've got him there on the possibility of that track getting some nice sunshine on it and pushing into that S7 range. Heavy 8, he's a big question mark. You'd have to contemplate tipping him out and putting Ed in on that heavy track. But Ed was sort of the one I was prepared to take on.
We don't have much or not a lot of people know a lot about Joyful Fortune with the Hong Kong profile.
I think I read a comment today about the ambulance could possibly smash into the back of it.
So no hope there.
I've got it as none.
Okay.
It's got a historical peak of about 3.5 lengths above in Hong Kong, but that's quite historic and brings in a benchmark profile 1,200.
And Giga Kick's the other 3-year-old in the race with a lightweight. Obviously a progressive sort of horse, but this is a whole new level.
Whole new world of enjoyment for a horse like that. Obviously the temptation of the big money is always going to be there. I thought she was a lethal chance in a race like Pullmore, etc.
Well, he can still go there.
Yeah, but you want to try and refire the gun after an Everest. All the best.
All right, I think Nature Strip hard to beat. I wouldn't be tipping against him. I think Musk Crusader might be the big danger. I agree with you. I think he's ready to peak third up here. He didn't really come up in the autumn, but if he brings his form of last spring, and he looks like he's trending in that sort of direction, that he's the one, if they overdo it up front and something decides to challenge Nature Strip and sort of it'll be sacrificial, whoever decides to do that, then I think it's Musk Crusader running home, Lost and Running brings the same form. So they're the top 3 with Private Eye running 4th. I think the likes of Marzu a little bit below this level. And Jacquino is the interesting one, but I've got a little knock on the wet track, and he did get a lot of favours getting out into the lanes last start. So I'd probably have a little minus on that, or I'm a bit wary that he got a lot of advantages getting out wide last start. Let's look at the Caulfield Cup now, Hayden, and then we can go through some of the other races on the Caulfield card. But yeah, there's no standout horse. There's no incentivise this year. And We've had a deluge of rain in Melbourne. We're going to get a heavy track. There's no doubt about that. It was a heavy 10 on Wednesday for the 1,000 Guineas meeting. How do you do the form here? We obviously had the Turnbull Stakes race where Smoke and Romans won, which was pretty much a 400-meter sprint. He got up on pace, but it was basically a trial, and he sprinted. The first four didn't change, and everything had this big kick late, but nothing really could make an impression. Then you've got Benno and non-conformers coming out of the Caulfield Stakes. A couple of others there. Animo, I think, bypassed the Turnbull and runs third up here. Montefilia comes out along with No Compromise from the Metropolitan. I'm not sure if you give Charlie Rose a chance, but most of the form comes out of the Turnbull.
It does. It's typical lead up. Again, they cross paths. We've got no internationals to really draw lines through. So it's, it's a glamorized Metropolitan, isn't it? At the end of the day, a couple of class runners in there versus some informed handicappers as such. What do you think?
Well, I've obviously focused on wet track form. I reckon it could get bottomless, the rain that we've had in Melbourne this weekend, the chop they're going to get from, the first 6 races. They obviously raced there on Wednesday. The rail was out 6, and they tell us that they've pretty much covered most of the marking, but I think it's still going to be an advantage to get wider on the track. You tell us often that there's lanes sort of 8 and wider at Caulfield, and then there's another set of lanes out, 15 or 16 and wider that gets even quicker, and you can see them peeling out that wide in the Caulfield Cup by race 7. I sort of focused in on Benno, and I thought his run in the Caulfield Stakes was outstanding. He looks like he's wanting 2,400 metres. His one go at the trip was on a bottomless track, Group 1 level, 5th up behind Haitotsu. It was on a 7-day break. That's exactly the same recipe they're doing here. He ran a new peak last start from an IVR perspective. There's no reason why he can't take that figure up to 2,400. For me, it's just a lot of ticks on Benno. And I don't think you're going to have to run a big IVR figure to win the Caulfield Cup this year. Barrier 20, I know you look at that and might scoff, but that might actually be the best ground. Might actually get, into a 3-wide lane, can make his run, won't get in the mess. So I settled on Benno, and then I think if you like that form, you've got to like Allegron as well. He might be a run short of Allegron, and they might be really setting up for a Melbourne Cup, but they come out of that same race, the ATC Derby. Haitotsu, if Haitotsu was in this race, he'd be starting $2.50. Benno's $9, Allegron's $11 or $12, and they ran second and third, big runs. I can see Allegron surpassing that. I think he ran a plus 0.3 in that Derby. I can see him going past that here. Benno put up a 1.7 last start, so he can repeat that sort of number. That might be good enough to win. No Compromise. I know you have a question mark on horses that are constantly running on wet tracks, so that might be the little knock on No Compromise. But Chris Waller's a master. It was a very good win in the Metropolitan, and clearly loves it wet. So I can see him thriving in the conditions. And the other one that thrives in the conditions is Montefilia. So they're my top 4. I wouldn't be surprised if Duais or Numerian's another one that sort of catches my eye. I think it's a wide open Caulfield Cup, but I'm happy to risk Smoke and Romans at the big price and on a heavy 10.
We're relatively the same here. A lot of your thought processes align with mine. I tried to, obviously the race starts with the race favourite, Smoke and Romans. What do you make of it? Good performance, won a Turnbull, Group 1. Any and every weight judge out there will want to say that this just wins and give you weight swing after weight swing after weight swing to justify their opinion. my problem with this runner is there isn't a run in this horse's career that I wanted to drag out and say, okay, that's the run that I need to find for you to win a Caulfield Cup. You don't have a monster. You know, you can go back a long way and find a run on what we would deem a semi-bottomless track. You got to go back to Sandown 2021, over 2100, and you were beaten. You've had a couple of goes on wet ground leading in. They've been okay without being spectacular. Your acceleration through your mid-race is spot on. If it wasn't a Caulfield Cup, if you were talking, you know, a B-grade race on the day, he's the horse you definitely want to look at. But up until that Turnbull win, he would have had to have been 50-1 in the Caulfield Cup. Surely. So what did you get in the Turnbull? You got a golden race shape. You got a 10-length surge through the mid-race, which took you up to 1.5 above, and you unleashed 7.9 length above benchmark combined last 400 metres. You were still accelerating on the line 4.6 on a day at Flemington, where if you got that style of race shape, you're borderline impossible to run down. You're asking any horse who sat further back than 2 lengths off you to produce a +10 or in excess style last 400. Not possible. Horses aren't capable of it. That's not what they do. They're not the Cox Plate crop. They're the Caulfield Cup, Melbourne Cup crop. They don't have that in the legs. So what everybody else from in behind got was a golden race shape in terms of a conditioning and preparation run leading into a Caulfield Cup, and they would sit there and sneak under the radar. There was half a dozen horses in there that I really wanted to zone in on. Horses like Maximal.
Great House.
Great House was another. I just had the big golden circle around him.
Surefire was in there, but Surefire they've decided, I don't know, and that was another sort of, is Chris Waller really targeting No Compromise or Great House for this and saving Surefire for a Melbourne Cup? But that was another eye catcher there.
Yeah, every possibility. Horses like Inspirational Girl, etc. They're all enormous runs. They all had the perfect lead-in run to where next start, if we make it, yeah, a genuinely run race, we're going to be ready. And from a conditioning perspective, we were flying. All of a sudden, we've had 80 mils of rain, and half of what I was interested in, I've had to throw out the window. So I've had to have a complete reshuffle on the race. I was like you. I was taken by Benno's performance behind the A graders in the Might and Power.
Yeah, and
thought he bought the right level of elevation. If he can elevate again off that, he's going to ask a horse like Smoking Romans to go to PB levels to win, and you're going to have to take favoritism about it. So I'm just Smoking Romans. For those who like it, for those who want to play the weight game, go for it and good luck. But he's not mine, and if he wins, I don't.
Yeah.
So he's completely going to get taken on from me. Benno was the horse I thought he was the right horse with the right lead-up run. Nonconformist was the other one with the right lead-up run. I had to put the question mark on him on the wet ground now.
Yep.
But he's one that I've got a question mark next to. Yeah, you're going to be dangerous. So if I have to make a set, he might have to be a break-even style runner for me where I don't lose everything and I can keep him on side. Allegron was the other one. You go back to that 2,400 metre race where the two met. They ticked the boxes. They both performed. They both broke benchmark. They both smashed wet track indicators, etc. So at least you've got a little golden sample of we can do everything you're going to ask us to do, and we can do it to a certain level. So they looked the two little safe ones. Then I had to look outside of them because Caulfield Cups, I always like to say, okay, this was the Cox Plate. Who are the two runners I'd want to take to a Cox Plate? Or over the course of the last 6 to 12 months, who are the horses that you really want to be on from a Caulfield Cup perspective, and you could see really shaking the life out of a couple of majors? The two runners were Montefilia and Jewess. Jewess may have been disappointing to some in the Turnbull, but she jumped Turnbull favourite, or she might have jumped second favourite behind Gold Trip.
Yeah.
And she pretty much couldn't do any more than what she was asked. That's as fast as she could run. And on that race shape, she was 1,000-1 from where she was. She basically could not win.
Yeah.
It had to be Winks to run them down. So in terms of what I do with the four of them, I'm not 100% sure. But I've got pretty much 4 good prices to work it out. Or if I could have Benno as my big winning option, and then I can take a margin out of horses like Montefilia, Jewess, and Allegron. They were the horses that I wanted to be around. Gold Trip, just watch that action. Go back and have a look at the replay. His front right leg's just an egg beater. I'm not 100% convinced Caulfield's going to suit him. He'd be a better horse at Flemington, and given the ground at Flemington would also suit him. No Compromise, yes, wet track credentials will fly in the ground. And then I like to ask myself, okay, if something really silly happens, who's it going to be? And that horse is probably Durston.
Okay.
That's where I landed. Interesting Caulfield Cup. I broke it down to 4.
And the other one I mentioned very briefly that I thought if it won, it wouldn't shock, but it'd have to explode. That was Numerian. As we haven't seen a lot of this horse, and not at Group 1 level. I think he's had the one run at Group 1 level. It might have been in a Doncaster or might have been in a Doncaster. It was Group 1 mile. He's had the 2 runs this prep. First up, very slow first section, but loved it in the heavy. And second up, again, loved it in the heavy, but he went so quick. Maybe a risk of flatness.
There's got to be a potential risk of flatness. You've seen Yonkers come off the same style of race shape. They appear to touch flat, but I also don't think Yonkers likes it that heavy as what it got on the day at Caulfield. So I had to put a question mark on that. But I thought he still raced well. Was brutal, but they did slow dramatically through the bid, and they just sustained a slow speed to the line. So I wouldn't be so much questioning the flatness. It might be the grounding run that those horses might have needed. That might have been a touch better for them than going -30 or -40, which they have been doing. He's a horse. He's got a level of talent and he's relatively untapped. He's got a peak performance at a mile. So he's not slow. And he ticks a lot of boxes from a Caulfield Cup perspective. My only issue with him is go back through his whole career, and I, again, don't have one run there to say you could win a Caulfield Cup.
Okay. And just in 30 seconds or even less, the one that there's been a little bit of support for is Knight's Order. Obviously going to put himself on the pace and does have a good wet track record.
He is. He'll go forward. Gay and Adrian can do anything. We all know it's possible. He's likely to surge forward. If he surges and sits, and they try and come up for air, they'll just blow him away. But if he tries to do a might and power and make it a brutal Caulfield Cup, so if he picks his spot, say from the 800, and decides to go, he could be in the race for a long way. He's a knockout player, first, fourth.
You'd think that they wouldn't want to blow him up with the Melbourne Cup in mind, but you never know. So I think we see it pretty similarly. We've both got Benno on top with Allegron in the mix behind as a saver option. You've got Nonconformist there as a saver option as well. My knock on Nonconformist was just a wet track. Did you have any queries there?
Not so much a query. My thought process on him was I just couldn't stamp him. So he's a complete unknown. He might, if he flies through it, he'll win.
Yep.
So that's where you got to make that little question mark and say, okay, I can't totally dismiss you. I don't have anything really exposed.
Yep. Yep. And that's fair enough. I thought Benno was at slight more impressive last start. I think you did too, which is fair enough. But yeah, wouldn't surprise if Nonconformist won either. Very tough Caulfield Cup, but we're both settling with Benno on top. Let's go straight to race 1, Hayden. We'll try and fly through the other 9 races on the card. It looks like a 2-horse race or it might be a bit deeper than that, but Quang Tree is 290, Climbing Star 320, Hell Hath No Fury 440, Desire 480. So certainly a 4-horse race.
I didn't like this race at all. I don't like a few of the races early in the card. I sort of got a range of horses here who haven't really done much in terms of sectional data. They haven't done much when it comes to stopping the time on the clock. I had to go with who I perceived was the class runner in the race, which was Hell Hath No Fury, and just hope he gets through the ground. If he doesn't get through the ground, any of them can win. The other one who had the little bit of X factor there was Climbing Star, but not really interested.
Yeah, I put Climbing Star on top in Saturday's age. So if you want to play, I'll be playing Climbing Star. Race 2, and this might be a bit more clear cut because I think we might see one of the better bets on the day, and it's Cap de Joy at $2.15. St. Barthen's is $5.50. Right, you are 8. Skyhorse is $8.50.
Hard Horse Default is a winner, and it's quick. And one thing, I like horses who go on wet ground, but I like horses who can seriously sprint on it. And when you see horses start to break dry track benchmarks in sections on heavy ground is when I start to open my eyes. She's been on heavy, but I wouldn't classify it as a genuine heavy.
Yeah.
So, we're pushing more into that bet. That day she won a Bendigo on what was officially rated heavy ground. That wasn't that heavy. It was more in that softish style of range. So the track still raced pretty well. She broke benchmark between the 4 and the 2.
Yeah.
And her run was sustained at the line. She sustained what you'd have a level of expectation for a good horse to do at Bendigo, everywhere between the 6 and the 4, the 2 to the finish. So Hard Horse Default, Ollie on, Ryan's horses fly at Caulfield. It'll be ready. It's the horse to beat. You start to look at others. St. Marthin's was an interesting runner. He brings over a little bit of Kiwi form. Again, he'll get through the ground. He'll enjoy it. Other than that, they start to get slow. If something silly happens, it'll be Robert De Niro, number 2. That'll do for me for that race.
Yeah, no, I thought Cap de Joy was, and if I'm pronouncing that right or wrong, forgive me, but I thought it was one of the better bets on the day. Race 3 might be the best bet of the day. Mr. Maestro, $1.65. Gee, he was dynamic last start on Turnbull Stakes Day. We were there on track to see him win the last race and help the Punters Club salute. And I'm just getting a warning. We've got 10 minutes to go with this meeting, but geez, that was dynamic.
It was dynamic. Sustained speed throughout. One thing I like horses, he will handle the ground. He's raced on a very heavy track at Flemington the start prior where he was a winner. I love horses who don't have that back up heavy track profile. They become slow. If you're doing your heavy track form and you can classify a horse who does handle heavy ground, one thing that I do like to look for is horses who have returned to a good service at their next start and been effective. They've still got speed in their legs and it doesn't make them dour and slow. He ticks that box. He's clearly the horse to beat for mine from Red Sensation, who's racing well. And I really wasn't interested in any of the others.
Yeah, no, fair summation. Race 4, Foxy Cleopatra 420, Moko 5, Renaissance Woman 5, Pavitra 6.
Another race, not really interested. This must be the range of fillies who were heading on a semi-Oaks preparation and hoping to get there. I thought the 2 horses to beat were number 1, Moko, and the other one was number 3, Pavita. I marked Pavita on top because I think she might get through the ground a little bit better than the other one. Knockout runner 40-1 for me goes into all your trifectas will be Born Hustler.
Okay, yeah, I had Moko just ahead of Pavitra, but we obviously got the same 2 on top there. Angry Skies might be one to follow in race 5. The $3.90 favourite clearly likes it wet. Blake Shin rides and he's in form.
Another one didn't really like the race. Liked, you can tell me how you say this name, but Eponymous or whatever his name is, number 8.
Eponymous.
I liked his win Mooney Valley, and he looked like a horse. Not his win at Mooney Valley. He ran second to the smart one of Price Kent's. KGB. I liked his performance there. I loved his last 200, 2.2 length acceleration over the last 200. Suffered a big slowdown, 6 to the 4. So all that acceleration was off a flat-footed. I don't know how you end that sentence, but he was left flat-footed, and he was able to accelerate. 3-length acceleration between the 4 and the 2. Another 2.2 late. Horse on the up. pretty much banking that he'll get through the ground, but think he's the best horse in the race. Angry Skies, yes, will get through the ground. Don't think he's as good as the other one.
Okay.
But you can start to draw a line between the two in terms of class versus ability to handle the track. If Epimonius handles the track, he'll kill them. If he doesn't, it's game on. The one to go into the multiples is another runner who'll get somewhat through the ground, which will be Hill Rip, Leon and Troy.
All right. This next race, first leg of I think it's the first leg of the quaddie, is it? Race 6? No, it's not. Race 7's the first leg of the quaddie, but it's a great race, race 6. We've got Najmati at 5, Yuan Diva at 550, Maliva at 7, a very fine red 750, Rose Quartz at 850.
Difficult race. So I sort of to and fro with a couple of runners. I wanted a horse who I would guarantee would be effective at 1,100 metres. B, I wanted some ability to get through the ground. And C, I really wanted to be somewhere up in around the speed. So the horse I landed with was a very fine red, Mark Newnham, Josh Parr. Good Sydney form, good wet track form in racing against some high quality horses. Go back to her first up run, not this campaign, but the previous. That's good enough on a heavy surface to win a race of this nature. She's got some good performances in behind very, very smart horses. So in terms of her benchmarking, etc., they continue to raise the bat every time they go out. So dangerous runner in a race like this. The knockout player is number 14, Never Standing Still, Philip Stokes, Dean the Golfer Yendel. Difficult horse to beat, loved his last start. He's quite a smart horse and don't think we've seen his ceiling yet. Only complication with him was the step up to 1,100. He might just be a 1,000-metre sprinter, but he could definitely elevate in a race like this. The other horse that had to go in somewhere was the other Sydney one. Again, 1,000 metres was my concern, which was Shelster from Sydney. Pretty keen each way on a very fine red.
Okay, I actually put Maliva on top. Loves the track and distance. Won at this track and distance first up in July. Also won at this track and distance first up in October. Obviously performs well fresh. So last start was a little bit disappointing, but if it can bounce back to what it did at Moonee Valley 2 starts back, will take beating. But also loves it wet. So I'll be Maliva, but yeah, I agree with you. It's sort of a difficult race to decipher. Because I'm not sure the ones at the top of the market, Najmati and Juan Diva, really want to run on a heavy 10 first up. The first leg of the quaddie, race 7, and we've only got 4.5 minutes to go. Dragonstone 340, Generation 440, as 4 of 550, Kalos 9.
Dragonstone's a bit of a heavy track wrecking ball. If he's ready, he will go very, very close to winning. 1,100 metre, 1,000 metre specialist, fast horse, can accelerate on substantially wet ground. Love this. The horse I couldn't believe his price was Malkovic. He's another jump. If he can accelerate through the mid stages of the race, he'll take a ton of catching. Flies on wet ground. They were the two I was interested in. As Fora was the one I wanted to back, but question mark on the ground. Convinced she's a very, very good horse.
Yeah, I originally had Generation on top. When I went back and did the form again, I found it hard to go past Dragonstone. So I'll be with Dragonstone there, first leg of the quad. Think it'll be hard to beat. Race 8's the Tristark. Again, some of these mares might not like the heavy 10, but Chain of Lightning 550, Palacepan is 6, Kiss on All Four Cheeks 750, Pride of Jenny 8. Argentia 9, Flying Mascot 950, Excelita 15.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with what you said there, that a lot of these might not like the track. Again, I want to be on speed. I want a smart, hard to beat on speed runner. Going to love getting back to Caulfield, which was Pride of Jenny. I'm with her as a top 3 player. I think she will be hard to catch and hard to beat. Palacepan's serious horse, Chris Muntz, good trainer. If this track was drier, I'd be ultra confident this horse simply would not miss the first 3. I'm not convinced that Excelita doesn't go in the ground. Her last start performance, Flemington, was excellent. She can win again. Chain of Lightning going to be there somewhere, gets through the ground, but not for me.
Yeah, I was originally Pride of Jenny, but I came back to Chain of Lightning. I just thought the slowdown 8-6 was excessive. Big sprint 4-2 and sustain that late. I think with a kind of race shape, Chain of Lightning can win again. So I'll be Chain of Lightning from Pride of Jenny. Yeah, they're the two that I've got, and certainly put them in the quaddies. Last leg, race 10, the Moonga Stakes. Hayden, Old Flame 440, Lady of Honor 480, Bandersnatch 650, Sinawan 750, Catalyst 750, Agon 14. The favourite Ayrton's been scratched.
Bandersnatch, best wet tracker jump, sits up on pace, mighty hard to catch in each way price. It's hard to see missing the money if he shows up to play. Sinawan is the one. I just can't get over this horse. He's just going to win a big race. And this may be the one where he gets right to the outside, swoops Malum in red hot form. Wild Planet, you get one more go, then you're going in the rubbish bin and you're getting life. Old Flame still not out from last week. Unfortunate, but them's the breaks.
Gee, we've seen this identical. I think I had Bandersnatch as my best value play if you buy Saturday's age. So you have to wait until the last race, but I think that's a great price. I thought Sinawan was the one to beat. And I also thought Wild Planet could have one more chance. It'll be a watch and see from a betting perspective, but if he was to come out and win, maybe he's back. 1 minute left. Anything else you wanted to sum up? Merch, yours is in the mail. Fan fave, you can get your next gen merch.
Watch this space about an upcoming function.
Yeah, we've got a Christmas party in the works, so watch this space. Mate, good punting. Nature Strip, Benno, Clay Moore. Let's multi them all up. Could be a big day. Enjoy your Saturday.
Tom Mitchell, pick 25. Dan McStay, Bobby Hill. Thanks for coming.
Catch you, buddy.
Enjoy. Then, mate.